Friedrich Nietzsche, the philosopher who stared into the abyss of the human soul, understood that our most intimate betrayals are never just about flesh and desire. They are philosophical acts, violent rearrangements of a shared reality. When a woman commits this act, the first words she speaks to you afterwards are not a random lie. They are a carefully constructed fortress, built not just to deceive you, but more importantly, to protect her from the shattering truth of what she has become. This first sentence is a key, twisted and forged in the hidden forges of her psyche. It is a statement so seemingly benign, so dripping with false concern or casual deflection, that you might miss its monstrous architecture. But Nietzsche would urge you to listen closer. He would tell you that within that phrase lies the entire blueprint of the transgression, a map of her guilt, her justification, and her terrifying new freedom from the world you built together. It is a linguistic sleight of hand designed to make you the questioner, the insecure one, the problem. So, what is this devastating first thing she says? It is not an apology. It is not an admission. It is something far more insidious, a phrase that immediately and permanently reframes the entire battlefield of your relationship. It is a declaration of a new, brutal truth disguised as an old, familiar language. And to understand, it is to understand everything about the silent war that has just begun. Why does this specific script exist? Why must the first words be a fortress and not a surrender? The hidden problem is not one of simple deceit, but of existential preservation. Drawing from Carl Jung, we understand the shadow, the part of ourselves we refuse to acknowledge. The act of cheating is often a violent eruption of this shadow, a part of her psyche that has been suppressed to maintain the facade of the good partner, the faithful woman. The immediate aftermath is a moment of terrifying exposure. She sees her own shadow reflected in your eyes, and the shock is not merely moral, but ontological. It threatens her very sense of self. This is where Nietzsche's concept of resentment silently operates. She may feel a deep-seated, perhaps unconscious resentment toward the very relationship she has betrayed, a resentment born of perceived obligations, lost autonomy, or unspoken sacrifices. The guilt she should feel is immediately transmuted by this psychological alchemy into a defensive justification. The French existentialist Jean-Paul Sartre would call this bad faith, the act of lying to oneself to escape the unbearable weight of freedom and responsibility. She is not just lying to you. She is constructing a new reality where her actions are not a reflection of a flawed character, but a necessary, even righteous, response to a flawed situation, a situation that you, inevitably, are a part of. So the first words are the foundational stone of this new false reality. They are designed to preempt your accusation, to subtly shift the burden of proof, and to establish a narrative where she is not the villain, but a potential victim. She is building a story where her shadow is not a monster, but a liberator. And the true battle is not over the act itself, but over which version of reality will survive. The unseen consequence of this first, calculated phrase is a silent earthquake that permanently reshapes the landscape of your relationship. It doesn't just hide a truth. It actively poisons the well of your shared reality from which you both must drink. This is the true trap. Cognitive science reveals our brains are wired for narrative coherence. We instinctively assemble events into a logical story. Her initial statement provides the corrupt, foundational premise for that story. Every conversation that follows, every attempt at reconciliation or argument, will be built upon this compromised ground. You are no longer trying to uncover a fact. You are trying to dismantle a world. This is the neurological power of gaslighting, not in its blatant form, but in its subtle, philosophical incarnation. Each time you confront the dissonance, the gap between her words, and the gut-wrenching truth you feel, you are forced to doubt your own perception. Your own memories become suspect. Was the relationship really as perfect as you thought? Were you, as her first words might have implied, somehow absent or lacking? This cultural conditioning, to seek reason and avoid chaos makes you a willing participant in your own psychological undoing. You start hunting for your own crimes to explain her transgression, because a world where you are partly to blame is somehow less terrifying than a world where the person you love is capable of a truly senseless act. The ultimate consequence is a theft of your sovereignty. You are no longer reacting to a single event, but to a labyrinth she has built with her very first sentence. You are chasing shadows in a hall of mirrors, each reflection showing you a distorted version of yourself, while she remains the sole architect of the maze. The affair itself was a betrayal of the body, but these first words are a betrayal of the mind. And it is this second, deeper violation that truly holds the power to break you. The rebellion begins not with a confrontation of her, but with a radical reclamation of your own mind. To break free from this labyrinth, you must perform the most counterintuitive act imaginable. You must accept her first words, not as a lie to be dissected, but as a truth, a profound truth about her inner state, not the objective reality of the event. This is the Nietzschean shift in perspective. The philosopher demanded we move beyond good and evil, beyond the petty calculus of blame, and look with unflinching clarity at the will to power operating beneath the surface. Her statement is not a defensive lie. It is a declaration of her new values, a manifesto of her fractured self. Your power lies in refusing to play the role of detective or prosecutor. The moment you stop asking, "Is this true?" and start asking, "What does this statement reveal about the person who said it?" you shatter the illusion. You step outside the maze. You see the fear, the self-deception, the desperate attempt to maintain a coherent self-image. This is what Viktor Frankl, from the depths of the concentration camps, identified as the last of the human freedoms, to choose one's attitude in any given set of circumstances. Your rebellion is to choose the attitude of the unmoved observer, the psychologist diagnosing a symptom, not the wounded partner begging for honesty. This is how you reclaim your sovereignty. You stop trying to rebuild the shared reality she demolished and begin building a new, private one, founded on the unshakable bedrock of your own perception. History is filled with those who broke free, not by changing their circumstances, but by revolutionizing their interpretation of them. The Stoics, the existentialists, the great artists, they all understood that the prison is first, and always a mental construct. By decoding her first words as a confession of her inner chaos, you disarm them. You are no longer her victim. You are her witness. And in that shift, a terrifying new question emerges. One that leads to the ultimate truth of this entire painful ordeal. The ultimate truth, the final realization that redefines everything, is this. Her first words were never about you. They were the sound of a soul attempting to bridge an unfathomable chasm between the person she promised she was and the person she has chosen to become. Nietzsche's greatest insight was that our deepest drives are not toward pleasure or even happiness, but toward self-overcoming, a painful, often destructive process of becoming who we are. The affair was merely the catalyst. The first words are the birth pang of a new fractured identity. She isn't just lying to you. She is narrating her own brutal transformation into a stranger, both to you and to herself. This is the paradigm shift. The entire event, the betrayal, the linguistic fortress, the psychological war, ceases to be a personal attack and is revealed as a tragic philosophical drama. You are not the central character in her act of betrayal. You were the audience to her own internal revolution. Her words were not a shield against her pain, but a desperate incantation to convince herself that this new alien self is real, justified, and powerful. The haunting conclusion is that you have not lost the woman you loved. You have witnessed her death, and her first words were the elegy. This leaves you with a terrifying and liberating freedom. The question is no longer, how could she do this to me? But who will I now become? Will you build your identity around her betrayal, or will you, like her, engage in your own act of self-overcoming. The path forward is not about understanding her, but about authoring your own next chapter with the sovereignty she has tragically, and perhaps unknowingly, handed to you. The silence after the storm is yours to fill. If you've ever dealt with something similar, share your stories in the comments below. Your experiences can help others who might be going through the same thing. Also, check out my other videos on philosophy and relationships for more insights and practical advice on navigating the complex world of human connections.